Tape www.suividecolosénégal.com. À École au Sénégal, c'est facile, tu n'as qu'à te connecter. Tape École au Sénégal.
Prepositions. Now we're going to move to prepositions. What is a preposition? Just a couple of things that you need to know about preposition that we need to work on. Preposition are words. It's a word or a group of words that fills in the gap. Okay, it fills in the gap in order for a sentence to actually make sense. That is actually what preposition is. It fills in the gap. It comes in before an adjective, a noun, or a pronoun. In order for a sentence to make sense, in order for a sentence to be complete, it's a preposition. And oftentimes we have different prepositions of time, of place, of sequence. Those are prepositions that we use when we talk about it, you know. And so we're going to look at a couple of prepositions so that you know why it's very helpful. It is actually helpful, especially when we want to do, as far as directives are concerned, you have preposition that gives like directions, you know, time. It's important with prepositions for direction. We have the preposition for direction, we have preposition of time, and of course, preposition even of sequence. You know, those are prepositions of sequence sometimes. So it's important, okay? And when we talk about direction, if you're trying to give someone direction, what are some of the prepositions that you would use? If you're trying to give someone directives, you know, directives, for example, to get to maybe a pharmacy, which is across the street, what is it that you need to say or that you ought to say? So it would be, for example, prepositions like across, next to, you know, you can say opposite, opposite from, adjacent. I'm giving you examples as far as directives. As far as directives are concerned that you can use, you know, those are all prepositions that you can actually use. Opposite, across, adjacent, under, on top, you know, above, under. Those are words these are kind of words that you use if you want to give directives, if you want to tell someone how to get to somewhere or how to get to something, and then you use words like this, you know. In order for you to get, for example, in order for you to get to the pharmacy, you have to cross the street, you know, go straight and move to the left. And so the pharmacy is going to be at the right-hand side. And so those directives that you give to left, across, above, underneath, those are all prepositions, okay? And then you have, of time, preposition of time. When we talk about time, we're talking about when it happened. Those are prepositions. When did it happen? Was it late? Was it early? You know, that's time. In the afternoon, those are prepositions. Afternoon, morning, of course, evening, you know, during. These are all prepositions. There are lots of other prepositions of time. We'll talk about it. You know, late this afternoon, I will be coming. You know, early this morning or this morning, I should be here at work. So that is a preposition as far as time is concerned. When exactly, the period of time did the person come? Early, is it late? Is it sooner? Is it later? Those are all prepositions of time. And there are lots and lots of examples, but you just need to be able to know the different categories of what they are, okay? And then when we talk about sequence, what does that mean, sequence? It's simple. Sequence means the different stages. First, second, last, afterwards. Start with first, second, last, further, or furthermore. Those are all sequences, you know. And then, of course, we have preposition of place, you know, preposition of place as well. Let me use the blue chalk. Of course, you have a preposition of place. Right? Preposition of place is what we often use. That is kind of what we often use sometimes. And it talks about the location of particular things. For example, on the table, under the table, in the bag, next to the chair, on the wall. So those are prepositions of place. And then it's what we use oftentimes, like in, on, under, next to, between, in between, on top, on, and all that, on top of it, next to it, opposite. So these are prepositions of place. In the basket, in the bag, on the table, on the chair, under the seat, under the bed, next to your bag, next to the kitchen, in between the bag, or the book is in between the table and the chair. So those are prepositions of place. And then we have lots more, a lot of them. You just have to learn to know at least 10 of each categories as far as prepositions are concerned. And so if you see them, for example, in a sentence or in a paragraph, just so you know, they are just helpers, okay? Prepositions that come in before, like I said, a noun, a pronoun, or an adverb to help flow the sentence. So the sentence will be much more better, okay? And so we use them oftentimes in our sentences. And so we should know about the different directives, what to say, especially if you're trying to describe something to someone or for someone. Oftentimes that's when we get a lot of prepositions. Or if you want to ask the questions, I'm in the house. I am in the house. And so in will be the preposition. I woke up this morning, the first thing I did was to brush my teeth. First thing, that's a sequence. This morning, that's the time, and I moved across the street. I moved across the street in order to take a cab, and I got in the cab. The preposition is in the cab. And so those are some of the words that we use all the time. So just so you have an idea of a preposition and to be able to identify. For example, let me give an example of a preposition. For example, okay, that's an example. It's quite a paragraph. Anna lost her bag, lost her ring this morning. Okay, it was in her bag. Her bag was placed between the sofa and the table. So what are the prepositions that you see here? First of all, we have the pronoun, which is her. Remember we talked about the pronoun. This morning. Okay, we have morning, which is a matter of preposition of time. And it was in her bag, the place in her bag, which is, of course, that's a pronoun. And then the bag was placed between the sofa and the table. Preposition of place and place again. So you see that we have a bunch of prepositions and pronouns in here, actually, that you can find here, okay? So we have the object pronoun, and we have the prepositions that we find here. And so, like I said, that is a good example of prepositions. So if you see, if you get a paragraph, you have to note that passage or the paragraph, please take note of that, okay? Thank you.
Tape www.suividecolosenegal.com